I kicked out my spoiled daughter because she can't close her legs. I can't handle a seventh child in one room. I have a 27-year-old daughter. She has 6 kids, between the ages 10 years old to 11 months old. She has 3 baby daddies. 2 of them give her child support and the third she's been casually dating for 5 years. They've lived with us for the past year after they got evicted from their last home due to my daughter having a part-time job and her fiancé being a tortured artist. I have literally no space for their huge family. Apart from my bedroom and the basic rooms every house needs, there's only 2 bedrooms available for them. My daughter and her boy toy took one of the bedrooms, while the 6 kids share the other bedroom. These poor kids barely even have any space to themselves, each of them have to share a bed and the oldest often has to take care of the younger siblings whenever they get up late at night. It isn't enough that they live in my home rent-free though, they're also always asking me to help pay their phone bills. I let them live here so that they can get their lives back together, but I've been noticing far too many Amazon packages coming to the house. I have put up with loud voices throughout all hours, and waking up at different hours to cater to children, because I love my grandchildren. I never complain to my daughter because I believe family is very important. But I can't lie and say that I wish they moved out already. I'm getting old, and all of my other children have already moved out. We didn't expect them to be living here this long. On Christmas Eve, my daughter gathered us all around and announced they were pregnant with baby number 7. Everyone was so excited, but all I felt was dread. That would mean another baby in our house, another child having to share a small twin-sized bed, another loud cry at night. I looked over at my husband and could tell he felt the same. That same night we discussed it and decided enough was enough. They had to leave. Last night at dinner I brought it up to my daughter and her boyfriend, and told them that they have 2 months to find a place because we cannot have another child here. My daughter started crying, saying she couldn't believe I'd throw her to the streets for having a baby, that this was completely unfair and not enough time. I told her I was sorry, it was painful for me as well, but these living conditions were impossible. She demanded I give her more time or she'd go to the courts, and I told her newsflash, the courts only give you 30 days. She then said my grandchildren were going to be homeless because I was selfish. She made a Facebook post asking for rooms to rent because she's pregnant and has nowhere to go and her family doesn't give a poop about her. Am I the a-hole?
Made my daughter run away, but I don't feel sorry. I don't think she's my kid, in complete honesty. My wife and I have 3 daughters. The oldest is 16, the middle is 14, and the youngest is 10. My entire family and my wife's family all have straight hair. My oldest and youngest also have straight hair. Then there's my middle with curly blonde hair and green eyes. The rest of the family have brown hair and brown eyes. I admittedly am not very close with her because I had doubts that she was mine and I had a hard time bonding with her due to that. My middle daughter insists that she needs special shampoo and conditioner because of her curly hair. She found some that wasn't too expensive, so I bought it for her, but she goes through the conditioner like water. She came to me after a little over a month and said that she needed another bottle. I told her she doesn't and that her conditioner should last her at least another month and probably longer, but she insists that you need to use a lot of conditioner for curly hair. I bought her another bottle and told her to use less because she wasn't getting another one for at least 2 months. She used it again in a month, so I bought her shampoo and conditioner from the dollar store. She had a meltdown about how this is going to ruin her hair and that she just got it to a place where she liked it and it was manageable. She blames us for her hair being uncontrollable for most of her life because we didn't learn how to take care of curly hair, even though it's not different than straight hair. She even threatened to shave her head, which I know she won't do because she's obsessed with her hair. Now she's refusing to speak to me and she's being extremely disrespectful to me and my wife. My wife thinks we should give in, but I think she needs to learn her lesson. She apparently had enough because the next day she ran away. I can't help but feel it's my fault. Update, she's not coming back. We found out she had been planning this for months. My oldest daughter was in on it and helped her hide the fact that she's been working after school for months. She taught her how to hide her money and showed her what to put in her bag and where to hide it. What a snake she is. When they were leaving for school, my middle daughter had a new backpack. My wife asked about it and middle said that it was her friend's, but she didn't want it, so she gave it to her, which was completely plausible considering that friend gives her stuff all the time. A couple of hours later we got a call from the school saying that my middle daughter wasn't there. My wife came home and checked her room and she found a note on her dresser saying that she couldn't handle living with me anymore. What an absolute moan she is. Back in my day, my parents made me live in a cold house so my dad could afford his beer at the weekend and you didn't see me crying and running off. My wife has a sister around 45 miles away and our middle daughter showed up to her house after being missing for 3 days. She refused to go home and threatened to run away again if she tried to make her see us. At first my wife told me to move out so our middle daughter could come home, but she quickly realized that she can't afford to live in our house on her income alone because I am significantly the breadwinner, plus our oldest and youngest deserve to have their parents together, so the middle is going to stay with her aunt until we figure out a plan that works for everyone. I personally feel that she is being dramatic, but I also need to ensure I do not come across as insensitive. I told my gold digger friend that I won't be her make-believe baby daddy because she rejected me too many times. I have this family friend named Lily, and I had a huge crush on her when we were in our early 20s. I asked her out on a date but she rejected me saying that she only sees me as a friend. I was devastated. But it hurt even more when 2 weeks after my proposal, she started dating some other guy, her now ex-husband. But I decided to move on and date other women. None of them were good enough compared to Lily. After 8 years, we met again and became friends again. She told me about her divorce to her ex-husband due to him cheating on her and abandoning her and her son for his new mistress. I decided that it was the perfect time to shoot my shot again. She rejected me once again because she wasn't interested in dating and wanted to focus on her son. One rejection was bad, but two was a new low. This time though, I decided to be mature and maintain a friendship with her. Even if she did decide to date another idiot, it wouldn't bother me. A few days ago, her son got into a huge fight with some neighborhood boys because they thought it was funny that his dad left. He had bruises all over his body and wouldn't talk to Lily at all. When Lily told me all about it, she asked me a question that straight up pissed me off. She asked me to talk to her son. When Lily and I got close again, I also hung out with her son. She asked me to talk to him because I was a guy and I could fill in the place of a father for him. I told her no right away, because I did not want the responsibility of a child. Especially because I'm not his father and we're not even an item. I told her that asking me this was incredibly inappropriate and you could tell she got ticked off at my response. Later that day, she texted me and said she didn't want me in her life anymore. She wasn't asking him to take responsibility, she just wanted me to help her as a friend. I shared this with some of my friends and some of them called her a gold digger because she's a single mom, some of them told me I was rude. I don't know if I did anything wrong.
My engaged friend said I wasn't engaged because my boyfriend doesn't want to get married after being together for 3 years. I'm upset because she's right. My friend Elise is engaged to Rick and I am dating Luke. Elise and Rick have been engaged for a year, together for 2, and I've been with Luke for 3 years. The two had their engagement party Sunday afternoon. I was chatting with Elise, looking at her ring, and I'm not going to lie, I felt a bit of envy. Luke and I have talked about marriage, but we haven't even looked at rings yet. He says he wants to marry me, but I do think it's taking a long time. So I asked Elise what made Rick propose to her. She told me that on their first date, she told him that he had a deadline, she wasn't going to wait around for years for a man to marry her. She said she wants kids with the right guy but didn't want to have kids without a stable marriage and a house. Well, they have the house and now are getting married. Another one of her friends said she was shocked it didn't make Rick run for the hills. Elise laughed and said, well, it wasn't an ultimatum. It was a fact. If after 2 years you still can't tell if I'm the one, then I'm clearly not, and I will be moving on. Period. I told Elise that if I told Luke that, he would leave me. That's when Elise said that Luke probably isn't the right one if after 3 years he'd leave me for expecting marriage. That hurt my feelings, so I told her that marriages don't always last and doesn't mean someone is the one just because they propose. She said she wasn't worried, that she and Rick were in love and knew life would not be easy, but she's prepared to make it work. She also said she knows marriage isn't for everyone, which is fine so long as your partner feels the same. But marriage is a value of hers, and she wasn't going to waste time with someone who so clearly didn't have the same values of her. That's when her friend asked me what my problem was. I told her I didn't have a problem. Just stating a fact. Then she asked how long I had been with Luke. I said 3 years, and she asked if I wanted to get married. I said yes, and when she asked what about Luke, I just excused myself to the restroom because I couldn't answer. Later when Luke and I left, I told him about the conversation. Luke laughed and called Elise ridiculous. I asked what he meant and he said, only desperate and crazy women have a policy like that. Let it happen when it feels right. So I asked him if he wanted to marry me, to which he said of course. I asked why we weren't engaged when we've been together longer. He said he wasn't ready yet and our relationship was fine the way it was. I asked how long he had to wait to know. He shrugged and said, does it matter? We're together and that's what is important. He asked me not to be like Elise because he doesn't like being forced to do something. I asked him if Rick felt that way. He admitted that Rick never said he felt forced and that he had been planning to propose to Elise 6 months after they met, but waited a bit to make sure he wasn't just jumping into something. I asked Luke if it would be okay for me to look at rings. He said I could but to not get my heart set on anything because he wasn't ready. He said even if he wasn't willing to spend more than $1,500 on an engagement ring. Elise's ring obviously cost more than that. Rick bought a ring he wanted her to love and did not care about the price. He found the ring she'd like, looked at the price, and saved money to purchase it debt-free. It saddened me that Luke said he was only willing to spend $1,500 on a ring I'm not even allowed to really look for. The two conversations made me really depressed. I'm slightly angry at Elise for her implications but mostly I'm disappointed in Luke. He hasn't mentioned it since this weekend, but it's all I can think about. Is he wasting my time? Edit. Luke told me he wants to get married but admitted he didn't know anymore if he wanted to marry me in particular. My husband is leaving me over a stupid joke. Turns out he's been living a life of lies. My husband, 30, and I, 27, have a great relationship. He's the love of my life and we've always had the best communication. This afternoon, we came home after a little lunch outing with our newly engaged friends Kai and Marie. It went great but it was like just another outing, nothing special, though we got some bomb pasta back home which I'm currently shoveling into my gob since it's too chilly for ice cream. We live in a super tiny apartment and so he showered first while I got the leftovers into the fridge and stuff. I went in after him, finished my shower, and put some lotion on my palm. I accidentally squeezed too much and dabbed some of it away. After I rubbed it on my face, I still had some of the leftover on my finger, and I did exactly what any perfectly sane person would do. On my thumb, I whipped up a little smiley face and some spiky hair to create Lotion Man. I came out of the bathroom, giggling about it, and said something along the lines of, "Hey, look, Lotion Man to the rescue." He didn't really react, he just looked at my hand and blinked at me. I honestly was just goofing around and started making a silly voice and saying some random crap sprinkled with some inside jokes. I was blabbing for about a minute before he just got up and left. I was of course completely oblivious as he grabbed some of his crap, and I was just smiling and asking where he was going in kind of a playful way. He has a huge truck and we just returned from a trip, so he has enough stuff to last him weeks, so it didn't really dawn on me that he was leaving until he drove away. I honestly feel like Boo Boo the fool for making such a stupid joke and then letting him leave just like that. I texted him a few times and he's just said that he's thinking about things and that he's at his brother Tyler's place. I've been texting him nonstop, but he hasn't been responding or even reading any of it. He also sleeps really early, so I doubt I can get in contact with him anytime soon. His brother isn't responsive either, so I'm just leaving my phone on the nightstand and holding my breath. I don't think it's really dawned on me yet. I stared blankly at the door for like 10 minutes before I got off my butt and actually tried contacting him. I've been with this man for years and I'm always cracking cheesy jokes. I feel stupid in my crap for making up Lotion Man and continuing after no response instead of just shutting up and accepting that I'm unfunny. At the same time, I'm just confused. He's never been at this point even in our rougher patches. The worst we've done is just take breaks from intimacy or just talk to one another a little less. I'm all for giving him space, but I can't say I'm not hurt he's just leaving. And the process of divorce is just so stupid. I don't even want to think about this anymore. Was making Lotion Man as big of a mistake as I think it was? Any advice on getting him back home?
A narcissistic ex tried to manipulate my daughter into hating me because I wouldn't forgive her for cheating on me. I got my revenge by releasing her cheating intimate tape. So this little story begins with me and my wife happily married. We had 2 wonderful daughters, 13 and 10, and a pretty healthy relationship. Or so I thought. Anyways, at some point things started to appear off. She got very clingy to her phone all of a sudden, made sure to delete the saved password feature on our common PC, stated having phone calls that suddenly ended when I came into the house/room. You can probably guess what it was. Now having 15 years of marriage behind us, I was hoping it wasn't what it obviously seemed to be. So one day when she told me she was going to spend some time with the girls, I decided to follow her. Sure enough, I find her driving to a hotel to meet with. Let's just call him Schlong. To say it was a gut punch was an understatement. I literally cried for an hour straight. After I was done with my self-wallowing phase, I decided the best course was getting even. I thought of several scenarios that may or may not have involved me hitting Schlong into a pulp. Eventually I decided to do things more civilly and more importantly legally, but only just. So the first part of the plan was gathering evidence. I could have just gotten a private investigator, but I had something better in mind. So one day when my wife was at her job and the kids at school, I installed some small secret cameras and microphones I had bought. Due to the setup of our bedroom, I even managed to get one perfectly overlooking the bed. I didn't however use them while I was at home. So a couple of days pass, when I proposed to my wife that the second to next weekend I should take the girls on a trip and stay the night too. At this point I should also mention that due to her job being pretty demanding and frequently exhausting her, and just due to our various passions and talents, I was always the main caregiver. I more often than not was the one cooking. I took a far more active role in raising the girls and showed them a lot more patience and attention. I didn't spoil them or anything like that. So me going alone with the girls on a trip wasn't that weird. This part will also be very important later. So 2 weeks pass, in which time I get my affairs in order and contact a lawyer to write up a separation agreement that would involve me keeping residents in custody. I go on the trip, try to not give anything away to the girls and wait and see if Schlong and my wife fall into the trap. When I returned I checked the recordings of the weekend, and sure enough it's a 36 hours F-fest. When they weren't effing, the dialogue was something even better. I found out that Schlong had a wife, though more on her later. But even worse, they also talked about me. And besides the obvious intimate character assassination that I expected about how small my Schlong was, how I didn't satisfy her, etc., there was some really hurtful stuff, like her telling Schlong some of my deepest secrets and shameful stories that I had only told her about, just so they could have a laugh. So at this point I didn't have any doubts on what to do. The next day when the kids left, but before my wife left, I confronted her with the video and told her that either she signs the separation agreement and leaves the house, or the girls are going to receive an in-depth explanation of all the orifices mommy got fucked in. I wasn't gonna do that, just to be clear, I love my daughters too much, but I put the threat there and she was too emotional to realize my bluff. She went through all the stages, denying everything, trying to bargain, threatening me, and getting angry. I let it go through all that stuff. Eventually she signed the paper and she departed that very evening after she told her goodbyes to the girls. I didn't show or tell the girls anything graphic. I was always very honest with them, which is another reason why I was always the favorite parent, so I just said that mommy had been unfaithful. The younger took some time figuring it out, but that was made up by my older getting mightily upset. She had just gotten her first boyfriend, as I'm not sure the term really applies at that age, but she knew enough of the world to get pissed off big time. This would be important at a would-be custody battle, as though she did for the moment agree to give over custody. I feared, and I was right to fear, that she would try and fight me for the kids. What I didn't expect was for her to use her visitation rights to talk crap about me. Basically, she started telling my younger about how it was all my fault for not forgiving her. Her lawyer even started demanding she receive custody. There was no way for her to receive money or the house as she was caught cheating, and in my state, that means quite a lot in divorce proceedings. So I finally activated my nuclear revenge plan. Enter trip to South Carolina. Why South Carolina? Simple. Fort Sumter. I really wanted my daughters to see it. I definitely did not go there because it is one of the last places where revenge intimate videos isn't illegal, and where I could upload my wife and Schlong's escapades with no worries on Pornhub and other such sites, as you cannot be prosecuted for crimes that weren't illegal when and where they were committed. I sent the links to my wife's employer, her clients, and everybody in her line of work just to be sure, to Schlong's wife and to his firm. Schlong soon got a divorce. I feel sorry for his wife as she was an innocent victim in all of this, but I think it's better that she found out. As for my wife, this was the end of any chance to get custody. She soon got fired from her job of 8 years. And while the revenge intimate video part was a real jerk move that did count in court, it being done in South Carolina, it wasn't illegal or prosecutable, so it could only be used as a minus about my personality, but with my wife unemployed and practically being blacklisted in her profession due to being on Pornhub, as well as the girls, or to put it better, my younger being told what to do by my older, stating they wanted to stay with me, there was no question on who would get the custody. Yes, due to her being unemployed, I got no alimony, but honestly I make enough money to sustain both me and the girls, so I don't care, and I'm good enough at caring for them, and they are old enough to allow me to have a full-time job. Several months later, my wife is still unemployed, though I do not know if it's from the corn or from the virus. The girls are growing up just fine, and don't seem to mind not seeing their mother. The last time I communicated with my ex-wife was on Facebook, where she told me how I ruined her life and her relation to her daughters, but honestly I think she earned it. There are some things people mistake for love. Love isn't staying up till 3 a.m. in the night to talk to each other every third day. That's not love, it's immaturity. Love isn't sacrificing your goals for someone. Instead, you help each other achieve your goals. Love isn't chasing them after they leave you and saying that please I love you, don't leave me. That's not love, that's just you being needy on the inside for someone who doesn't care about you, because if it was love, they would have stayed and figured things out with you. Love isn't about how perfect a relationship you have or how perfect a partner you have. It's about how you accept each other's imperfections and are willing to put in consistent efforts. Because in the end what matters is how the both of you go through your tough times and make the best out of your beautiful relationship. Love isn't constantly trying to make sure of the fact that your partner might cheat on you because you are scared to lose them. That's just a lack of trust on your side because of some experience that you might have. It's not wrong to feel this way, but it will lead to unnecessary drama. Trust is the underlying foundation of a relationship, so you should work on that first. Love isn't depending on your partner for everything. It's about also having a life of your own. Relationship is a part of your life, not your life. You should have your own life, goals, and friends as well. Love is supposed to be healing and full of self-growth. Love isn't some happy fairy tale, it's who we find our end all be all with.